Welcome to the TMR River Scout Museum.
Hi, my name is Ira Nagel.
I'm Anthony Zalak.
We are at the museum at Headquarters Camp, TMR River Scout Camps in Sullivan County, New York.
The TMR River Scout Museum has exhibits on the history of the TMR River Scout Camps, early New York City scouting, local wildlife, and history.
On this virtual tour of the museum, you will see all of our major exhibits.
At the end, there will be a short quiz. By completing all the requirements, you can earn the TMR Museum Historian Award.
The TMR River Scout Camps was purchased by the Boy Scout Foundation of Greater New York in October 1927. The photo is of President Franklin D. Roosevelt visiting TMR River in August 1933. Roosevelt was president of the Boy Scout Foundation from 1922 to 1938 and led the effort to acquire the TMR River Scout Camp's property. This showcase contains neckerchiefs, pennants, patches, and other artifacts from this period. Until the mid-1950s, TMR River had 5 summer camps, one for each of the 5 New York City boroughs. Scouts typically attended the camp for the borough their troop met in.
This photo is of Tahlequah Lodge, headquarters of the Brooklyn Scout Camps in the 1930s. This showcase contains neckerchiefs, patches, pennants, and artifacts from this period. Before 1938, Brooklyn Scouts earned the TP and Canoe Award for completing various Scoutcraft and service requirements.
The first New York City Boy Scout summer camp was at Hunter's Island in Pelham Bay Park, the Bronx, in 1911. Brooklyn Council established a camp at Carr's Pond, Harriman State Park, in 1913. Staten Island Council organized a camp on Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey, in 1913. By 1917, all 5 New York City boroughs had camps on the Kanawake Lakes in Harriman State Park. Due to the increased congestion at the Kanawake Lakes through the 1920s, the Boy Scout Foundation started searching for a permanent summer camp for the New York City Scouts, adequate for all time.
Franklin D. Roosevelt organized the Boy Scout Foundation of Greater New York in 1922 to coordinate fundraising for the 5 New York City borough councils, manage the summer camps at the Kanawake Scout Camps, and organize citywide activities like the 1936 Boy Scout-O-Rama in Madison Square Garden. Roosevelt was able to recruit many New York City businessmen to join the Boy Scout Foundation and support New York City Scouting. As President of the United States, Roosevelt organized a Civilian Conservation Corps to provide conservation-related jobs for mostly young, unemployed men. He notably gave the Boy Scouts the credit for the idea behind the CCC. From 1933 to 1936, CCC Camp 10 Mile River at today's headquarters camp improved camp roads, built fire breaks, and reduced fire hazards all over TMR.
See the hand-drawn 1952 TMR River map. In the 1930s, the Brooklyn Scout Camps were the largest at TMR, with over 1,000 scouts each 2-week period.
The photo is of the Camp Ranaqua waterfront in the 1960s. This showcase contains neckerchiefs, patches, and artifacts from this period. Before 1938, Bronx Scouts earned the Green Felt Arrowhead Award for completing Scoutcraft requirements. Bronx Scouts wore the black and green felt beanies while in camp.
The photo is of scouts attending Camp Manhattan in the 1930s. This showcase contains neckerchiefs, patches, neckerchief slides, and artifacts from this period. Before its acquisition in 1929, the camp property was a kosher girls' youth camp.
The photos are of Camp Man, the Queensboro camp. The Tower of Friendship, erected in 1936, is one of the most recognizable landmarks at TMR. It still stands today.
The photos are of Camp Manhattan, the Manhattan Borough Camp, and of Camp Ranaqua, the Bronx Borough Camp. The Ranaqua Blockhouse was one of the most recognizable buildings at 10 Mile River. These are photos of Staten Island Scouts attending Old Camp Aquahunga in the 1940s and the 1950s.
The photo is of Staten Island Scouts in the Old Camp Aquahunga dining hall. This showcase contains neckerchiefs and a pennant from Old Camp Aquahunga.
Brooklyn Scouts were the first to go to TMR River in 1928. They took the Erie Railroad to Tustin Station and hiked to Tahlequah Lodge to check in for camp. Their luggage was shipped separately via Railway Express. Troops from other boroughs typically took buses to camp. The Rapper Rest was a favorite rest stop for the long bus ride to camp.
For almost 40 years, the Slide Farm on Route 97 was operated by Roland Flora and his wife Louise for the purpose of manufacturing hand-carved neckerchief slides. Campers hiked to the Slide Farm to place their order and picked up their slides at the end of their stay in camp. Louise designed and painted the slides while Roland carved them. Many TMR camp staffs ordered staff neckerchief slides from the Slide Farm.
The photo is of Stag Hall, Camp Man, built in 1902. It was used as a hunting lodge before the Crystal Lake Tract was acquired by the Boy Scout Foundation of Greater New York in 1929. It was then used as headquarters for Camp Man. This showcase contains neckerchiefs, patches, artifacts from Camp Man and the succeeding camps, Lakeside, Central, and Kernochan.
This photos of scouts being inducted into the Order of the Arrow at TMR. This showcase contains neckerchiefs, patches, and artifacts from the 5 original New York City Order of the Arrow lodges: Ranachqua, Shashuga, Swanakee, Manhattan, and Aquahongia. The OA played a large part in the daily life of the camp. Each borough camp had its own lodge. Arrowmen directed traffic, parked vehicles, served as guides to camp visitors, cleared tent sites, maintained camp traditions, and organized campfires.
Photo is of the landship Amachol at Camp Man. The Amachol was a 2-story building built like a ship, with bunks, cabins, and a wheelhouse. This showcase contains photos, patches, and artifacts related to Sea Scouting at TMR. Sea Scouts were not Boy Scouts. They had a separate program based on nautical skills. Bronx Sea Scouts were based on the landship Jonas Bronx on Lake Nyack.
The photos show TMR in the 1960s and 1970s.
This showcase contains T.M.R. River neckerchiefs, patches, mugs, slides, and artifacts from the 1960s and 1970s. In the mid-1960s, TMR introduced self-reliant camping. In some camps, scouts slept in tents instead of open-air cabins. Instead of eating their meals in large dining halls, each patrol cooked them in their tent site.
The photo is of the famous scene taken at Indian Cliffs in the 1960s. This showcase contains TMR neckerchiefs, patches, mugs, slides, and artifacts from the 1970s and 1980s.
This showcase contains TMR neckerchiefs, patches, slides, and artifacts from the 1990s to the present.
This showcase contains arrowheads and other stone artifacts from the 3 known Native American rock shelters on TMR property. Small hunting parties of Native Americans traveled down the Delaware River, used rock shelters while fishing and hunting.
These are metal artifacts found on TMR property. They date back to the pioneering era in the 1700s. Note the oxen shoes and axe heads.
This frame contains coins found on camp property dating from the late 1700s and early to mid-1800s. This was the lumbering era in the region. Trees were cut down, dragged to the Delaware River by oxes, tied together into rafts, and floated down the river to markets. The posters in the showcase illustrate wildlife found at TMR during the 2014 Upper Delaware Bio Blitz. Note our extensive mounted bird collection. This is the stained glass window from the back of the Immaculate Heart of Mary Chapel at Camp Man, dedicated in 1949. It was removed by volunteers and moved to this location in 2004. This showcase contains literature, patches, and photos relating to religion at TMR. The Donut Farm was a small family-owned restaurant off Route 97 that was popular with TMR campers and staff. Well, widely known for its famous donuts, the Donut Farm also sold luncheon meat, sandwiches, hamburgers, peanut butter sandwiches, cake, and ice cream. The donut machine, piano, and deer head were from the Donut Farm. The museum acquired these items soon after we opened in the early 2000s. TMR had many famous visitors over the years. Franklin D. Roosevelt visited as governor of New York State and later president of the United States. New York State governors Thomas E. Dewey, W. Averill Harriman, Herbert H. Lehman, and Nelson Rockefeller visited 10 Mile River. New York City Mayor William O'Dwyer visited in 1946. The TMR Monument commemorates all of the scout camps at TMR since it opened in 1928.
This is the last of the original open-air cabins that were widely used at 10 Mile River until the early 1960s. It was located near the end of Rock Lake in the former Brooklyn Scout camps. The cabin was moved to this site and renovated in 2010. Today we use it to demonstrate how Scouts used it to live in these cabins during the 1940s and the 1950s.
The Kernochan Blockhouse was the totem of Camp Kernochan on Crystal Lake. It was dedicated in 1956 and moved to this site in 2010. Today, the Blockhouse is a recreation of the pioneering Blockhouse from the upper Delaware River Valley, with displays of period tools, toys, and games. Here are instructions to take the short quiz and how to earn the T.M.R. Museum Historian Award.
Congratulations for completing the virtual tour of the 10-Mile River Scout Museum. To take the short quiz and earn the 2020 T.M.R. Museum Historian Award, go to the museum's website https://www.tmrmuseum.org. Click on the 2020 T.M.R. Museum Historian Award info icon on the top of the page. Good luck!